Good evening and live from Banjul. This is GRTS News at 2000 hours with me, Winifred Nicole. In the headlines tonight, President Adama Barrow visits 2 agricultural project sites in the North Bank region and update communities on his government's development initiatives over the past 4 years as part of his Meet the People tour. The Gambia joins the rest of the world to mark International Human Rights Day, reflecting on the life and legacy of former President Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara, a champion of human rights. The National Center for Arts and Culture discusses the Regional Cultural Policy and ECOWAS 2019-2023 Action Plan on the return of African cultural property to their countries of origin. Ghana re-elects incumbent President Nana Akufo-Addo following his election victory in a tightly contested race. Plus, farmers in Tanzania uses mobile phone applications dubbed Agric Power to boost their products and profits. And UN Security General Antonio Guterres calls for the COVID-19 vaccine to be availed to poor nations, especially those in Africa, describing the vaccine as good news to the world. Well, viewers, those are the headlines. Thank you so much for joining GRTS News. The President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, has visited 2 agricultural sites in the North Bank region. The site visit to the Africa Agro Action Company Limited in Kirjarga village and in Jawara Agriculture Training Center forms part of the President's ongoing Meet the People tour. Details in this report by Momodu S. Jallo.
The President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, made a stop by at this garden in Cherjarga village, belonging to Lamin Job, son of Jim Fatima Job, the retired chief of Jokadu. The Africa Agro Action Company is the initiative of this young man who has taken up agriculture as a viable venture, and he was happy to receive the President at his garden. After inspecting the garden, President Barrow was impressed with Mr. Job's desire to take agriculture as a source of employment. Besides agricultural production, he is also into making compressed blocks using gravel and cement. President Barrow also visited the Jawara Agricultural Center, where he was taken on a tour of the facility. He was shown the variety of new agricultural practices being implemented by the center. The President interacted with the staff and students who are undergoing training at the center before stopping to share his impressions.
You can have a small land, but you can produce a lot with that small land because you have skills, you are trained. I think we will continue to support you. I will talk to the Minister of Agriculture. We see how best we will collaborate with you to see how best we can support these young people. And you told me something that is very interesting yesterday. I was saying something like that at the meeting. That the bakers in Gambia, 80% are foreigners. So Gambia means that we cannot bake bread. And we are really encouraged. Yes, and we cannot thank you enough. Because dealing with youths at this age, you have to be very careful. Because at this time, they are very active, they have a lot of energy, so it's not easy to manage them. But with your age, and you are trying to manage such youths, and we need to commend you for that, we need to thank you.
The Jawara Agricultural Training Center was established in 1990 to train youth and adult farmers in sustainable agricultural techniques so as to improve farm production and productivity. The visit by the President will solely serve as a big encouragement for the staff and students of the center. Momodu S. Jallo, GRTS News.
Meanwhile, President Barrow on Wednesday held meetings in Darul Rilwan and Farafenya respectively as he continues his Meet the People tour. The meetings accorded the Gambian leader the platform to update the communities on his government's development track record over the last 4 years, whilst also unveiling plans for the future. Momodu Jallo has more on that.
The President, His Excellency Adam Barrow and entourage left Karawan for Darul Luwan for a planned meeting. He had a brief stop at Gunjo as his motorcade was met by excited residents who lined the main road to offer prayers and good wishes. He will later arrive at Darul Luwan, a religious community famous for its Islamic religious scholarship. The meeting was addressed by several speakers, including the Alcalde of the village, Modu Toure, and the Chief of Central Badibu Alaji Jain, who both welcomed the President to his first meeting in the village. The Chief commended the President for his support of farmers, but urged government to provide more social services to inland communities. The spokesperson for the women, Ajimam Busonjai, appealed to government to expand the already available water network to more communities in Lower Badibu and help women engage in economic activities, which remains their only source of income. For the youth, Ajimam called on government to provide skill centers to end the tide of irregular migration. We have seen many young people risk their lives for Europe. The Minister of Forestry, Environment and Climate Change, Lamin Diba, said the tour was not a political outing, but a dialogue with the communities in order to assess their needs. He revealed that government has provided 14 fishing boats to communities across the country, and 3 of these will be given to Central Badibu to provide employment to the youth and women. He also added that Badibu is the first rural settlement to enjoy 24-hour electricity, courtesy of the Borough administration, adding that it is part of a comprehensive plan to bring development closer to the people. Responding to requests for a market for the village, the Minister of Local Government and Lands, Musa Drame, promised to take up the issue with the Krewan Area Council, as Darul Ilwan is also an important trading center that attracts people from Badibu and beyond. The Minister of Works, Construction and Infrastructure, Balamin Job, unveiled plans for the construction of 5 feeder roads in Lower and Central Badibu, all part of an overall government policy to provide infrastructure for rural communities. On healthcare, Dr. Ahmadu Samade said government is aware of the challenges faced by women in accessing healthcare services, but revealed that his ministry is set to renovate 50 health facilities across the country. He will also be provided ambulances. President Barrow closed the meeting delivering a lengthy speech which outlined his government's achievements over the last 4 years in the areas of infrastructure, health, education and energy. The President praised the community of Darul Ulwan for their steadfast commitment to the NPP party, which he said continues to grow in numbers as more people defect from opposition parties. He gave assurances that the community health center will be expanded and an ambulance will be provided to evacuate patients, particularly women. He also promised that technicians will be dispatched soon to assess the road leading to the highway as part of a wider initiative to ease communication within rural communities. The President later left Darul Ulwan, driving several kilometers to Farafenni for a planned meeting. The motorcade would make several stops along the road as local communities waited to cheer the President and entourage. We finally made it to Farafenni, where residents had ordered to fill the football ground for a late evening meeting, characterized by speeches, entertainment and defections. Several people, purportedly from the opposition GDC and UDP, switched allegiance to the NPP in what has now become routine since the tour began 3 days ago. Local NPP leaders, including Mustafa Diba, Alhaji Samujan Jan and Karamo Jadama, described the turnout as the beginning of an era for the NPP. He has now outnumbered its opponents. They promised to keep the momentum to deny their rivals the chance to regain the initiative. The Minister of Tourism and Culture, Hamad Nkeba, welcomed the defectors to the NPP. He said it's evidence of the President's popularity amongst the masses who have seen and felt the effects of his development programs. He challenged all eligible Gambians to register for the upcoming elections, particularly the youth, as their voice would be critical in deciding the outcome. Ahmad said President Barrow has no issues with the diaspora voting, but contended that the process should be open to all Gambians irrespective of the country of residence. The meeting climaxed with the President's address, which touched on issues of politics and development. President Barrow also congratulated the defectors for taking the bold initiative of ditching the opposition in favor of the NPP, predicting that the trend will continue as the country inches closer to the elections. President Barrow said his government is development-oriented and prefers results to rhetoric which he believes serves no purpose, as Gambians are just interested in development. He added that over the past 4 years, the country has witnessed remarkable progress in several areas, but promised to increase the momentum to ensure that every part of the country benefits from his development programs. On a personal note, President Barrow said he does not have any desire to enrich himself at the expense of the masses. arguing that he wants to leave a legacy that will last a century. The Gambian leader concluded by commending the people of Farafenni for the reception, which will dispel any misgivings his opponents might have had about this border settlement. The president retired for the night to prepare for 2 more meetings in Gen Sanjal and Bangar Kendel. Maudou Diallo, GRTS.
The National Center for Arts and Culture on Thursday hosted a day-long orientation meeting of Anglophone ECOWAS on Regional Cultural Policy and Action Plan, as well as the ECOWAS 2019 to 2023 Action Plan on the return of African cultural property to their countries of origin. The forum held in Bujilo gathered representatives of National Cultural Association and ECOWAS member states. Usman Mane was at the opening ceremony and filed in this report.
The protection and management of cultural heritage in the Gambia is the responsibility of National Center for Arts and Culture. NCAC is among institutions in various Anglophone West Africa to preserve and restore regional cultural heritage. At an orientation meeting in Bijilo on the ECOWAS Regional Cultural Policy and ECOWAS 2019 to 2023 Action Plan on the return of African cultural property to their countries of origin, the Director General National Center for Arts and Culture, Hasum Sise, underscored the importance of the policies to preserve regional cultural heritage.
Because all other countries in West Africa, we stand to gain if there is a sub-regional approach on how we can get back our heritage, which are being kept like in Western museums or in Western collections. And now the other aspect is about the ECOWAS cultural policy. This also is quite important for us because we are in the process of finalizing our new cultural policy for the Gambia. The one which is current, dates to 1988. But the National Center for Arts and Culture has worked with the ministry and stakeholders and with the support of UNESCO. And we have been able to elucidate like a draft cultural policy.
The adoption of ECOWAS cultural policy by cultural ministers and endorsed by heads of member states came amid international recognition of the importance of cultural heritage, but its effects is not felt in the continent. Dr. Emil Zida emphasized the popularization of the policy documents.
The recent commitment shows the constant effort made by our government to make culture a key sector in the development program of our states. Given the importance of those documents for the cultural sector, it was essential that this document be popularized to actors in the field, both public and private actors in the sector. The information session on ECOWAS policy document is therefore intended to be a session of appropriation, but also and above all of taking into account in planning at the level of member states.
In her keynote address, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Tourism and Culture, Kodu Jaban Senghor, highlighted the importance of the policies to adding value on African identity.
The statement on return of rooted cultural items in Western region is also a great reason as we in the Gambia, like all other ECOWAS countries, suffer from illegal movement of heritage objects out of Europe during colonialism. We in the Gambia, and I believe in all other countries in the region, have since 2017 sought to strengthen the heritage and cultural sector after decades of neglect.
According to officials, research has shown that significant artifacts are found in French museums and other Western countries that were irregularly moved from the Gambia, and with the coming of the policies, efforts will be intensified to bring back the country's lost heritage. Usman Mane, GRTS.
Away from that, the Network Against Gender-Based Violence continues to lead the crusade in creating a broader understanding on issues of gender-based violence and its impact. The team, in partnership with the National Food and Nutrition Authority, on Thursday organized forum paying special attention to refugee needs in the country. Fatou Diba was at the ceremony at the Gafna office and now reports.
This forum focuses on the harmful effects of sexual and gender-based violence and the significance of discussing it in open platforms that invite broad participation. As the world celebrates Human Rights Day, stakeholders took the chance to reflect on recurring violations of rights of individuals around the world, but particularly in the Gambia. Deliberations here are also paying special attention to refugees. The coordinator of the Network Against Gender-Based Violence, while shedding light on the different types of sexual and gender-based violence, said there are laws protecting the rights of all individuals, particularly refugees, needing constant coverage and protection.
This is a day for liberation for every human being, but this is a day in which we should reflect on those whose human rights have been violated all over the world, especially those in the Gambia. Especially for us, those who have been victims or survivors of sexual and gender-based violence during the course of the year 2010. This is a day we reflect on how they feel, how this affects their lives and the lives of their loved ones. And we want to say we are with all of you who have been affected in one way or the other.
Collective efforts are needed to achieve growth and eliminate abuses women and girls face.
It is crucial as partners and members of the society to participate in the prevention and response to sexual and gender-based violence by reporting incidences to the concerned authorities. We need to stand united in the fight against gender-based violence and thus protect women and girls who most of the time fall victims in the hands of men as a result of power inequality.
We at Child Fund will remain committed to the protection of children and women, and we will ensure that children are given the required environment to thrive in whatever background, whatever location that they are here in the Gambia. Child Fund will meet them, Child Fund will reach out them, and will give them all the opportunities that they need.
In a similar engagement, the network also met with the Attorney General and Minister for Justice to discuss ways of ending GBV.
We are also appealing to your ministry, as NATIC is under your ministry, to ensure that government, allocate funding, at least to start up, so that NATIC could be strengthened to support the rehabilitation of survivors of trafficking in the Gambia. And finally, we know you've established this SGV unit in your ministry, and they are doing extremely very well. But we want you to strengthen it further.
You can list so many factors that contribute to the delay of trial. The ones that are on our part, we can promise we will work on them and improve on them. And if need be, we will flag it with our partners, as the Chief Justice, to make sure we raise your concerns. Sexual and gender-based violence matters need to be expedited. They say justice delayed is justice denied, but there is another revised side of that quotation. You don't also rush justice at the expense of justice itself. And sometimes some of these cases require...
The campaign to end sexual violence continues, with more engagement and encouraging authorities to take strict actions to end sexual and gender-based violence in all spheres. Fatou Diba for GRTS News.
To the Lower River region now, where Action Aid International the Gambia, in partnership with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations and the International Consortium of NGOs, recently certified over 400 participants of the Farmer Field School Initiative at an event held in Genoy in LRR. The activity is part of the Farmer Field School project aimed at bridging the farmer extension worker ratio gap. Our regional correspondent Alhaji Mbai tells us more.
The graduation of over 400 participants of the Farmer Field School Initiative follows their completion of the training with the project. The Farmer Field School Initiative seeks to bridge the gap of farmer extension worker ratio. The representative of the International Consortium of NGOs, Famara Conte of Action Aid International, the Gambia, explained that the project seeks to promote sustainable growth and food security.
This project seeks to contribute to sustainable growth in the agricultural sector, reduce food insecurity and malnutrition, and mitigate migration to Europe. The consortium is mainly tasked to support the strengthening and the monitoring of 75 farmer field schools across the country. To implement this project, 10 key activities were outlined. One key activity among them is the graduation of farmer field school participants. This action was expected to take place back in March 2020. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, government state of emergency regulations and lockdown, the event was then cancelled. Despite all this, the consortium is resolved to ensure that the activity is conducted.
Osman Toure of the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, reaffirmed his office's commitment to provide technical support to the agriculture sector, adding that the sector needs more extension workers in addition to the Farmer Field School initiative.
Extension still needs a lot more people. So your participation in it is fundamental, because as we speak, we still have 650 farmers for one extension worker. The recommended rate or the recommended ratio is 1 to 500. So we still have 150 to knock off. So that's why I'm saying there could be a possibility for you to be engaged in order to close that gap.
Abdullah Sise of the Regional Agriculture Directorate said the Farmer Field School initiative has greatly contributed to building the capacity of farmers.
Farmer Field School, as we all know, has also helped our farmers to at least build their capacities. We have already understand that so many farmers were capacitized as a result of this particular activity, and the extension is able to reach, or the knowledge of extension is able to reach certain points where we, the extensions, are not able to go to. And also we have this point of advice for the facilitators to also understand that other countries have at least registered success in this through this Farmers Field School, and we can do it equally.
Certificates were presented in groups to different field supervisors for onward delivery to the participants, as the gathering was organized in accordance with the COVID-19 guidelines to observe social distance. Alajimbai, GRTS News.
Well, that report by Alajimbai takes us to a first break. News from outside the Gambia is up next. Do stay with us.
Consumers need service providers, and service providers are there because there are consumers.
Regarding to the network issues, it is a concern and it's a problem to everybody.
Man tey soo gisee ma ñëw dama bëgg a déglu ma xam ban problème la si network am.
dégg naa bu baax jàngee naa lu bari te ëllëg lu dooree ëllëg ñu ngi door di implement si li ngeen a wax yépp.
Are you looking for help from Pura, or do you want NAWEC to make a public commitment here in front of everyone?
And Pura to help me solve this once and for all. 2.5 years is a long time.
Don't go to Pura, come to NAWEC. No, NAWEC will solve your problem.
Kela sibitolo till Tandim Pula, December 2020. Sadawda Kairaba Jawara International Conference Center. Karantan Sumanda, Katafotala War. Pura, Melorin Gendeka, Duko Kemoli.
For the first time in the Gambia, your favorite GSM operator, Africell, is the first and only GSM operator to launch a brand new technology called the eSIM. The eSIM simply means you can use your phone without a SIM card. Do you have an iPhone 11? Any of the iPhone X series, a Google Pixel 3, or any new phone that supports the e-technology? Then walk into any Africell customer care center and activate your eSIM today. With your virtual Africell SIM, you can use more than one number without having a physical SIM card in your phone. Enjoy this brand new technology for the first time in the Gambia, brought to you by Africell. eSIM eSIM, your phone without a SIM. For more information, please call 111. Where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Welcome back, and over now to news from outside the Gambia. We begin in Ghana, where the incumbent Nana Akufo-Addo has won re-election in a tightly contested race. He came up against former President John Mahama and 10 other candidates. Electoral Commission results puts Nana Akufo-Addo in the lead with nearly 42% of the votes cast. More in the CGTN report.
Catherine Finney turned 18 this year. She voted for the first time in Ghana's elections. The presidential race was a close one between incumbent Nana Akufo-Addo and former President John Mahama, both seeking to improve the lives of Ghanaians and the economy.
I suffered in paying my school fees, but my younger siblings didn't. They had the opportunity to go to free SHS, and that has really helped my family a lot. So that's why I decided to vote for him, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo.
The Electoral Commission says nearly 80% of the electorate turned up to vote, an improvement on the nearly 70% turnout recorded in 2016.
1, 2.
The counting of ballots went deep into the night, with voters keenly watching the process at every step. 2 days after the polls, the long wait for results ended with this announcement by the Electoral Commission.
By the power vested in me as the chairperson of the Electoral Commission of Ghana, and the returning officer of the presidential election, it is my duty and honor to declare Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo as President-elect of the Republic of Ghana.
The Electoral Commission said Nana Akufo-Addo won with almost 52% of the votes cast, while his political rival John Mahama had 47.36%.
I give you my word that I will continue to work very hard to build a prosperous and progressive Ghana for which we yearn. The decisive margin of victory in this election constitutes for me an endorsement of the policies and programs initiated by my government and put before the electorate. And I'm determined to do all in my power to accomplish the task of this new mandate.
Nana Akufo-Addo from now has an uphill task to turn around the country's economy, which has been badly hit by the coronavirus pandemic, coupled with fighting corruption that plagued his previous government.
The celebration of President-elect Nana Akufo-Addo's win saw supporters gather here at his residence. The president has urged them to celebrate in moderation and maintain peace with the opposition party.
Nana Akufo-Addo will be sworn into office on January 7 to continue his second term. While observers have said Ghana's election has largely been peaceful, the death of 5 people through electoral violence was a blot on the democratic process. For people like Catherine, who voted for Nana Akufo-Addo, they want more jobs to be created in the next 4 years to reduce the unemployment rate in the country. Nabil Ahmed Bufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
UN Secretary General is calling for coronavirus vaccine to be availed to the poor nations, especially those in Africa. According to him, the rollout of the vaccine should be a good news to the world. Details in the CGTN report.
It has hardly been a month since the announcement of major breakthroughs in the search of COVID-19 vaccines from the United States, Britain and even Russia. The news of the efficacy of their respective vaccines have been encouraging, but amid this excitement, rich nations have been stockpiling the vaccines for their citizens, leaving the poor nations to watch from a distance. UN Secretary General now says leaving out these poor countries could be a weak link in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
But I reiterate my call for a COVID-19 vaccine to be a global public good available to everyone, everywhere, and particularly available in Africa. Most African countries lack the financing to adequately respond to the crisis, due in part to declining demand and prices of their commodity exports.
Addressing the press at the United Nations headquarters in New York City, Guterres said the vaccines are good news, not just for the respective nations and pharmaceutical firms, but also for the entire world. He also called for those with access to the vaccines to be inoculated.
I encourage everybody that has access to the vaccine to be vaccinated, because it is a service not only that we provide to ourselves. Each one of us being vaccinated provides a service to the whole community, because we are no longer spreading. There is no risk of spreading the disease. So vaccination is, for me, a moral obligation in relation to all of us.
The World Health Organization launched the COVAX initiative in April. It was meant to allow nations access COVID-19 treatment tools.
The only way to guarantee to the African continent the vaccines that the African continent needs, and we all need, because if Africa is not properly supported, we will not be able to fight the pandemic anywhere effectively. The only way is, of course, to make sure that the COVAX initiative that has gathered a large number of countries, but all the specialized institutions from the World Health Organization to Gavi to CEPI and to all the others, to make sure that the COVAX is financed.
Poor health and infrastructural systems have been cited as some of the few issues that could make it hard to store and distribute the drugs effectively on the African continent. Enoxicoli, CGTN.
Meanwhile, farmers in Tanzania are increasingly using mobile phone applications as means of boosting their products and profit. AgriPower, a Tanzanian Android app that enables farmers to get connected to each other, is now part of a growing trend of the country using mobile technology of farming. Details in the CGTN report.
35-year-old Placidius Rechungura has always loved computers and farming. His days as an IT officer in the banking sector gave him an idea to combine the two.
The bankers could want some enough data from the farmers, such as the history of farm, the expenses being incurred during the development of the farm, etc., etc. Now, I noted that the farmers could miss getting loan because they didn't have enough data to support them, enough farm data to support them. So this is where AgriPower came.
Using artificial intelligence, the mobile phone app helps farmers plan, monitor, and analyze their activities, the goal being to increase knowledge, profits, and creditworthiness.
For a poultry farmer, map where the farmer is, the farm location. We can also assist the farmer to get connected with farm expert so that he can chat and explain his challenges incurred during farming.
According to World Bank statistics, 66% of small-scale farmers in Tanzania have mobile phones. This means Tanzania has among the highest mobile phone penetration in the agricultural sector in Africa. According to the 2020 Global Innovation...
Well, that was all in this edition of the news, but before we take leave of you, I look once again at our headline-making stories. President Adama Barrow has visited 2 agricultural project sites in the North Bank region and updated communities on his government's development initiatives over the past 4 years as part of his Meet the People tour. The Gambia has joined the rest of the world to mark International Human Rights Day, reflecting on the life and legacy of former President Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara, a champion of human rights. The National Center for Arts and Culture have been discussing the Regional Cultural Policy and ECOWAS 2019-2023 Action Plan on the return of African cultural property to their countries of origin. Ghana has re-elected incumbent President Nana Akufo-Addo following his election victory in a tightly contested race. Plus, farmers in Tanzania have been using the mobile phone applications dubbed AgriPower to boost their products and profits. And UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for the COVID-19 vaccine to be availed to poor nations, especially those in Africa, describing the vaccine as good news to the world. Well, viewers, that was all in this edition of the news at 8. Well, join me at 2200 hours for more news. Until then, do stay tuned and enjoy the rest of our programs.